Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Human Podcast with your host, Wendy.
And Brenda. Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys. We are just past the total solar eclipse.
Yes.
The energy is feeling good.
Yes, it is.
It's kind of like there's an ease now to the energy that you wouldn't have known existed prior,
Yeah. No, it feels lighter and like brighter and more powerful and like that to me.
Yeah, just easier. Like, not so much struggle. If you're open to it, it's there. It's a little bit easier. So that's nice.
Not to take away from if you are experiencing the catalyst, which is the intention of this energy, is to help things fall away that no longer serve you. So if you're in that too, just sending so much love and light to help you along in the journey. And one of the things that we're going to pull through is actually something from our retreat that we just had over the weekend. So Wendy creates a channeled painting for each retreat, and the message is so poignant and so important that we want to address it in the podcast, which we don't usually do. So we're kind of excited.
Yeah, for sure. Partly because it was such a unique energy, because it was bringing through the total solar eclipse, which won't happen again for a couple decades, and it was just such a turning point for this awakening process. So in essence, this painting is holding all of that, and so it's kind of important to talk about. The next couple podcasts are not going to be on this painting, but we wanted to make a point of sharing this information.
Yeah. It's really important and really powerful. So if you cannot see it and you're just listening to this, to just explain it a little bit, actually I'm going to let you do it because you were the one that painted it, and maybe...
Yeah, I guess if you're listening to this and you can't see it, I would encourage you to go somewhere to see it, because it is a portal visually to kind of help hold the energies for us. Visually. But if you can't see it for whatever reason, maybe you can't see, I don't know.
You're out for a walk, or you're driving your car and you just want to listen to us talk.
It's basically a black background with a peacock in the forefront. And above the peacock, you have a full moon that is being held by like a frame, like a gold frame. And in this gold frame has a jewel coming out of each direction, so north, east, south, and west, with specific colors in the gem. And then there's, from that, kind of on the right side of the painting, are 3 fireballs kind of just falling from the sky, going vertically down. One's blue, one's orange, one's purple. And then you have a bunch of stars on the right as well. But on the left side of the painting, near the back end of the peacock, because the peacock's a side view, so you kind of see the body and the head. But on the left side of the painting is a fig tree branch, and on the fig tree branch are some figs, but also a sitting sparrow. And there's no stars in the black background behind the sparrow here. It's just kind of black, and then it kind of transcends into more of like stars. And there's like some green fog and yellow fog around the bird and such, where just to give you this sense of magic and kind of things are kind of coming into fruition. So there's a lot of magic in this painting.
There is a lot of magic, which is really neat, because how to explain some of this intellectually, it's not going so well. So to have the visual of it and the kind of the feeling of it, it's really important, because those are the dimensions that we're moving into right now. So explain some of these details to us. Why the peacock? Why the sparrow?
Well, I feel like what's coming in now, we're dealing with people that are a little bit more aware, more conscious, let's say. We're aware of this 3D to 5D integration or expansion. For those of us that, you might not even be aware of that language, doesn't mean that you're not participating in it, because this is the only game in town, and so no judgment, really. It's not a hierarchy. But this transition, really what this 3D to 5D, what'd you say?
Expansion or
integration. Or moving, right? Yeah. Or expanding. It really is just about shifting into like a new paradigm, so a new way of being. So even if you're not aware of the dimensionality of this expansion, it's still like everything's kind of getting shook up, even in our cultures and around the world, because we're all being asked to kind of shift into a new paradigm. So a different way of being. So one that's more inclusive, one that's more compassionate, one that's more, internally it's about learning how to love yourself. And, this is what we preach all the time. But for this painting, it talks about how we integrate our ego, our relationship with our ego, and our relationship with our shadow. And that's a huge component because it's about shifting from surviving to thriving. And then you get to a place in your development, or even if you're aware of your shadow, you get to this place where there are aspects of your being, let's say the parts of you that are, mad or, in pain or sad, but then there's parts of you that are happy. So sometimes we try to control that and say, hey, I just want to be happy. I don't want to be sad, right? So you have this exchange with parts of yourself where you're kind of fighting for who gets the voice, the part of you that's wounded or the part of you that's conscious and wants a better life or whatever. And that is what we would say is the battle between the ego and the self. Would you describe it like that?
Or maybe more like our shadow self, right? It's our shadow self attempting to integrate with our consciousness, our collective. I feel that the ego is a really important part of us in that it's doing the job that we ask it to do. And without awareness, we just kind of revert to our subconscious or our shadow self and have it just look for things to be afraid of or look for things to survive, right? So if we're moving into thriving, it means the ego's job is changing. And that's really important because if we now let the ego know, hey, listen, all our needs are met and everything is possible, ego, look for things to be grateful for. Look for ways that things are working out perfectly. It really is this conscious practice of being present in the now with a new job for the ego.
So what would you say the ego is then?
I'm not sure about that. I love that question though, and I love having that conversation. To me, the ego is like a conductor right now, and that might change if I sit with this conversation a little bit more, but it like conducts and kind of gives our thoughts patterns, and it tells certain areas of our being to get on board with whatever job we're kind of giving it, right? What's our production? What's our orchestra song right now, right? So like the conductor of these moving parts of this, like the ego to me can kind of get on board with even trauma because the ego knows we've been unsafe, let's say, or we have wounds. So when the body reacts and the nervous system gets on high alert, the ego's like, okay, what are we afraid of? What is there to look out for?
What do we have to protect ourselves from?
Right, exactly. And so shifting that into, hey, no, actually, I'm okay. I'm noticing that my body just kind of stressed out or had tension. So I'm going to practice relaxing, and the ego then gets on board. Oh, what are we doing? This is why the ego goes in crisis a little bit. I feel like it's sometimes like this because it doesn't know what to do. Wait, what are we doing? Are we afraid? Are we not afraid? Are we threatened? Are we not threatened?
Well, then, and I totally understand what you mean by yours is more of almost like a Freudian idea around like superconscious, ego, and subconscious. So the ego is the now, the present person conducting your current situation.
I'm not so sure that the ego has the consciousness that like my higher self does,
or
that I have. Not necessarily. I feel like it's kind of this tool to kind of keep everything together, right?
Okay, so what about ego in the sense that where you're being egoic? Like ego, I feel like has a really negative connotation, really, in our culture. It really
does in this culture, and it makes me a little bit sad.
What is that?
Because the ego's protecting itself. So, for example, when we say that egoic, we're often talking about, I'm threatened because you're doing well or people are praising you. So egoically, well, here's what I'm good at. Here's my thing. But that's a threat to my being. That's a threat saying that if you don't have enough, value. I have no value. Exactly. So kind of no ego, we actually have a new job. Wendy's amazing and great in every way. And so am I. So if I don't have to worry about the threat of not having enough. Exactly.
And that's partly what this painting is about. It's about shifting the ego's, our relationship with what the ego is and
And
how
I feel
we
like we
treat
haven't
it.
dove in deep enough into this concept of like, if I'm feeling threatened, if my ego has to step in and be like, well, I'm good at this and I'm really better at this than that person. And when we're doing that, we are in that survival frequency, because then I'm threatened. I'm better than so-and-so, and I'm going to judge so-and-so, and I'm going to think this, and that's okay. There's no judgment. We got to notice.
But really, it's just nothing but your wound talking.
Right.
And your wound of feeling like a lack of self-worth or insecurity. So really...
And the habit of the ego functioning in this particular way for so long. And that's where, right, this is why we're so passionate about what we do, because we want to help kind of integrate this new ego, which, you know, I'm, like I said, I love the conversation because I feel like we're going to unravel more and more with this. You know, the ego is just the integration of all of our parts together. And if we have more separate parts, and this is what I wonder, and I don't know yet, but if we're disconnected from more parts of ourselves, I feel like the ego is almost stronger in some people. I'm not 100% sure, like this is just preliminary research of what I've observed so far, that when there's more disconnect, meaning when you're more unaware of your shadow, am I making sense? Mm-hmm. More unaware of your trauma or your wounds, then the ego is bigger. It has kind of like a bigger job. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I see the same thing. So I feel like it is proportionate to, it's almost like together you're 100%, but if you're, you know, if when
unaware,
you're balanced,
or
when you're unaware, so you're unaware, so now it's like 10%, and then the ego's 90, but it's still making up 100.
Right, always. We're always whole. We're always that, and yet bringing it into balance and the integration of all
into
of those
our
parts,
awareness,
right? The mastery of self, the best friends of all of your nuances. Yeah, and I do feel like this painting does a really good job of reminding us of that, reminding us of like our greatness with the peacock, and that, you know, we're allowed to shine and expand and be recognized for our value and our greatness. Like, yes, please, more of that. And that our divinity and our power and our love is that beauty and effortlessness of the sparrow.
Yeah, but it's interesting because in this moment I feel like, you know, what's coming through is more about shifting our perspective of the ego, meaning let's say the peacock is the ego, right? Okay. The peacock's the ego.
Okay.
Right, because even we use that word peacocking, you know, when people are being really like flashy or...
Aren't I so great? I'm so great. I'm so great.
Peacocking, right. Like, hey,
And you wonder if they really feel that way inside. Yeah.
Right, but I wonder if it's just we have to shift the paradigm within us in regards to the peacock, because though there is that lesson here, like, you know, you can get lost in the flash and in the fastness of that path where there is no sustenance there.
Right, you're talking about like the facade sometimes of some people who present as so confident and yet underneath they're so insecure, and there is a difference, and you can feel that.
And being fed outside of yourself. I feel like peacocking is you're trying to get fed outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you're saying, hey, I want a relationship, I'm so great, so you get fed outside of yourself. Or you're like, hey, I'm an amazing baseball player, look at me. You're trying to be fed outside of yourself. So in how that path alone is not sustainable. It's not going to fulfill your darkness. It's not going to fulfill the whole, right? Yeah. And so almost like a warning in that way, or a caution to say, hey, this is a cautionary tale, right? Like you don't
that will catch up with you. Right.
Right, so don't follow the path of the peacock, because it's short-lived and it's really not what you're looking for, right? You're really looking for what the sparrow teaches. But I wonder if it's the other side of the peacock, in shifting our perspective, is saying, hey, the peacock is unassuming when its feathers aren't, right? When its feathers are not exposed, it's very unassuming and it's pretty humble. Yeah. And what is so bad about us expanding?
Right.
You know, because the peacocks, when it expands, it's so beautiful, it becomes mesmerizing. And I feel like maybe it's shifting our perspective of the ego to say, I don't know, just like there is a really beautiful aspect here that we might be missing.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's so important. We have great value. We're allowed to know our greatness. And it's when that's authentic, almost when it is the peacock and the sparrow at the same time, when that's authentic, you have no issues with other people's greatness. You're just like, wow, you're amazing. And you can say, and I'm amazing too. And we can be but those are simple words for an energy and a frequency of knowing within you that, like, yes, let's shine our light. Let's get bright brighter and brighter and brighter together, because the brighter you can get, then the brighter I can get, and then we're brighter and brighter and brighter, and you get the metaphor of that.
And I'm so grateful for our relationship, because just being sisters and both being, gifted and talented, both being able to see, but see very differently, and just have different talents and gifts. I feel like we've had to, figure that out, like how to be, be in the presence of somebody else that's just different, but equally as talented, and I feel like that's where a lot of people struggle, like, can you be a great writer and also let somebody next to you be a great, but they're so different.
Right.
They're a different kind of writer, and I feel like that challenges our egos, maybe. Well,
it does, especially in this culture, like how we're conditioned and taught to kind of be the greatest, have the best grade.
Well, I'm number one then, and then you're number 2.
Exactly. And we've talked about this in the past of like how kind of helpful it's been being in this together, because we had to check our egos. We couldn't step on any other pedestal, because there is no such thing.
We couldn't even be on a pedestal,
exactly.
Because
it's not
we're
authentic.
Sisters. We knock each other down.
Yes, exactly.
Or we'll be like, psh.
Exactly. We're like, who do you think you are? In this really great way. Hey, I love you so much, and you're absolutely amazing in every way, and neither one is better or worse. And the freedom of that, of like setting yourself free from this hierarchy that does not exist. It truly does not exist. Can we let go of that limit?
Yeah, and the hierarchy, because it's almost like, when we would compete, let's say we started participating in that peacock or hierarchy or egoic game, right? We would check ourselves enough to where we would be forced to face the actual wound at hand,
our insecurities,
which is our insecurity or our lack of sense of self, or lack of self-worth. Right? So we would have to face that and sit in that, because that's all, so if we're avoiding and denying, we're getting caught up in the flashy, being fed outside of ourselves, whether it's drugs or alcohol,
everybody loves me,
or sex, or social media, the facade of some of those things. Not that that can't be fun and great, it is about balance and coming at it with integrity,
And only if it's being approached from an authentic expression of you. If you're doing it to people please, if you're doing it because
for attention,
the culture is saying this is the only way to be, and this is your value, and it's, you know what I mean? It's your value needs to be determined by you, by your authentic self. So if you're going out there and having fun and being flashy because that's what feels right to you, that's really gonna ring true. That's a totally different experience of what we're talking about, because so many of us are living our lives based on other people's perception of what should or should not be. So like that's like the ego kind of getting off track. That's
and I agree with you 100%, because it's like the peacock cannot see its own feathers.
Yeah.
It doesn't see its own feathers, so it's really doing that dance for others. So in that way, again, another cautionary tale where it's like, where's your compass, and what, why are you doing anything? And hopefully you're doing it for yourself, and that it's authentically you, and it feels good, and it resonates with your heart, right, in your authenticity. Because that's partly why there's the sparrow here, because the sparrow is unassuming, right? And we, as human beings, we take the sparrow for granted, truly. We see thousands and millions of them. We don't think anything of it. They fly in front of us. They go into the bushes. There's, hundreds of them every day. Mm-hmm. And we don't think that they're special because they're one in a million, right? And when in fact the sparrow represents, abundance and hope, and this beautiful ability to fly. Peacocks can't even fly. Right? So it's like just being okay that you're one in a million. So it's like this play between both. Being the one that's shining, and then being the one that's just amongst everyone else. And I feel like that's part of the messaging with this eclipse, is like finding your place and finding your authentic voice, but then also finding your tribe and finding your, allowing yourself to you're great without having to be flashy.
Yeah.
Knowing your worth just as a sparrow. Not having to be the best, kind of getting rid of some of those belief systems. Or being the
best you is really how I would say it. Be the best you. That's what we all need. That's what you need from yourself. no matter what that is. There is no hierarchy. There is no test to pass or credential to obtain. Just be the best you every moment of every day, whatever that is. You could be sleeping all day.
Because if you have rules around that, right? If you have rules around when you can actually celebrate or when you can actually receive the love that you're deserving, like I need to get all A's on my report card and then I'm going to be a worthy person, or I need to have a clean house and then I'm worthy, or, I need to lose 10 pounds and then I'll be nice to myself. Whatever, if you have rules around that, that's really the messaging. It's like, get rid of the rules. You're loved now.
Yes.
And those are really limiting. And it's those belief systems that are limiting your expansion. We have to let those go.
Holding you back, yeah.
Yeah, right? We have to let those go to move into the new earth, into this fifth dimensional expansion.
Which are obtainable. You can access them by just feeling into them now, and you can kind of hopefully feel even the messaging of this and how it resonates with like, oh, right, the freedom, that's your authentic self, is that freedom, that joy.
Right, so the ego, we start with the ego, it is about shifting our relationship with it and understanding that it's not a bad thing. Spiritualists or people on the right path or whatever, the ego is a bad thing. And in fact, we need to shift our relationship with it. It's not, that's like an old way of thinking about it. We do not discard any part of ourselves, including our ego. We have to learn to love it and to see it is a part of ourselves. It's just training it and shifting our perspective on how it's used. Right?
Giving it a new job as it grows and changes along with you, because it does and it will. You don't want to talk about the three
go ahead.
fires? Well, yeah. So then with the ego in relation to kind of how we're pulling this through with the
what?
Mine. It's for you to pull through.
The three fireballs?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I didn't know we were going to explain the whole painting.
I know, yeah.
But, all right, so with this energy of kind of shifting our relationship with ourselves and with our ego and really learning how to love ourselves and who are we performing for? Hopefully it's yourself, right? You're the center, you're the main character, right? And balancing that out within you. And this is your own journey with yourself, so really, being honest with yourself and, and authentic is really the key. As that's happening, that's that mirror of the moon is showing you the mirror of both of those parts of yourself. And as that's happening, there's these three fireballs coming down from the sky, and it really is just signifying of a time, of this time that's happening, of these shifts that are occurring within our, really within our psyche and within our reality. They say that they're similar to like the three waves of this awakening, but I see them as fireballs, which are just energies that are, like I said, affecting our reality.
Lighting up. And really, to me, it was like the importance of speaking our authentic voice.
Which would be the blue one.
Right.
And that's why it's so close to the peacock. So it's associated with that relationship of like authenticity and expression.
Yeah.
And then right next to that blue one is that orange one.
I always saw it as yellow, which is so
it is. There is yellow in there.
To me, kind of being your authentic self. So like practicing doing things in a way that align with your authentic self, right? So like almost like the reminder that everything is possible is kind of like how I took that too.
And the
like,
freedom
this is
around
the
that.
age of miracles. This is the time when we have all of this help. Accept that. Please let go of limiting belief systems that don't allow for those energies to come in, because they're all around all of us. The more we can open and accept and receive, the more we have that help.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the only game in town. So if these shifts, right, are really pushing us to be our authentic selves. And that's really what it is a frequency, which is an alignment of your being, of your light, the divinity that you are, that aligning that with your heart and, getting your entire physical human body kind of on board with it. So your thinking self, your feeling self, your, connection to your higher self, all of these things. And we break this down in our online course, Mastering the Quantum Realm. But it's a frequency. And this is the only game in town. If you're not it's kind of like if you're not being authentic somewhere, you're not aware of a part of you. That's when this mirror of the moon and this play of the subconscious will come in hand, meaning you're going to get triggered. And if you are getting triggered right now, that's what's happening. It's just showing you a part of yourself that where you're not being authentic, or a part of you that needs loved.
Right.
It's been neglected for too long, so it's going to come to the light. It's going to come into your awareness for you to love it.
A dis-ease in your body, or a dis-ease in your relationships, or your job, whatever it is, no judgment. It's actually a gift. So showing up for that.
And that's what these waves are. So you're going to see a lot of people even continuing throughout this year, maybe they're experiencing a little bit of chaos or emotional turmoil or whatever. And that's these waves or these fireballs kind of affecting them energetically to where it is helping them shift into more of a frequency of love within their life. It's kind of like the universe helping them have and experience more love.
It's like this energetic boost, like, go, here you go, here's something.
And that's why they're fireballs, because they're very powerful, extremely powerful. I'm getting in this moment, these are also tied to dragon energies. Yes. So it's almost like different dragons. So there's a blue dragon, there's like an orange and yellow dragon, and there's a purple dragon. They all have different functions, and they're just representing different frequencies or teachings. The purple one is a little off to the side, so it's something a little bit more ethereal. So this wave or this expansion, this part of the expansion is a little bit more ethereal, so it's a little off. So it could be entering into your awareness. Some of you guys might be aware of it now because it is here, meaning for those of you that are ready for it. It's
part of our reality.
Right, so if you've already shifted here and here, you're going to be able to recognize this. And this is more of tapping into, obviously, this space, our third eye. So your psychic abilities, your intuition is going to be boosted. It's boosting right now maybe for you. And the gifts of that, like being able to tap into other dimensions, communicating to other sentient beings, being able to, more of like a Merlin-esque kind of energy in this space. This is like more fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional expansion over here.
The purple, yeah.
Right. So that's what's coming in and affecting how we interact with our ego. Mm-hmm. And that's partly why the world is so like this, because we function from an egotistical standpoint, a hierarchy, kind of way for so long. And that's kind of being shooken up, this like old paradigm. And so in this way, this is all about this old paradigm and moving into a different relationship with it. So it's not like physically anything's different. The ego's still there, but we just shift how we interact with it.
Yeah, and almost this like reminder that you'll help yourself out if you can let go. And it is the last thing that's going to feel comfortable, because the ego is going to want to hold on or glom on to belief systems that are comfortable for the ego. And those are the old programming, or at least they tend to be. So being mindful of like, actually, you really want to help yourself, your ego, let go, cultivating this frequency or way of being that's very free and maybe unnatural because you just haven't experienced it that much. And so just a gentle, loving reminder that, listen, we have the help that we need. We are in very good hands within our higher selves, within the universe, and all the energies coming here to help us, like letting go. And it's not going to feel comfortable. So almost like if it feels uncomfortable, you're doing it right. And in that letting go and feeling a little bit uncomfortable, there is this energy of like, okay, cool.
For sure.
So like, practicing like slowing down our nervous systems and like allowing ourselves to feel into the energies on this planet now, and allowing ourselves to change. I know I've said this, I think, in the last podcast, but I'm going to say it again. One of the things I'm saying on a regular basis because of the times that we're in is I am willing to change, I am changing. Louise Hay framed that. I stole it from her. I am willing to change. I am changing. And so kind of just like letting my cells know, letting my being know, letting the earth know and the universe know, no, I'm a part of this. I am with you. I am with myself. I am willing to change. I am changing. And that's really like this message of like what this means, what your painting means to be in perfect balance. Because that's the name of the game now.
And knowing that you don't have to do anything to receive love.
Yes.
Like you are worthy of love right now. You are a beautiful being of light, and just being able to allow yourself to feel that and know that. And I feel like that's where the biggest shift of the ego is, just like, nope, you don't have to get it outside of yourself at all. And in fact, you're probably not going to get it outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, most of us are not going to get it outside of, and that's okay. I mean, you're really being asked to cultivate that love within you. And that's probably the most awkward and uncomfortable, because we're so used to getting it outside of ourselves. So it's like, you don't have to do anything. You're perfect just the way that you are. And really cultivating belief systems and practices of just knowing that and believing that and feeling that. For myself, that's probably been the most awkward, because you don't feel, you kind of fake it until you make it, but eventually it does come around where you're like, oh, I do love myself. Yeah, I am. Where you don't need it to come outside of yourself, and you're not dependent on that. Where there's a condition of love, it's like the love is always within you.
Yeah.
Because you're saying so.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. Good conversation.
It's a good conversation.
Kind of a lot of information. We felt like this is what we were guided to bring through. Really important.
Yeah, because it's shifting, and there is a lot of greatness in this painting. Like, meaning, like, there's a lot of beautiful energies that's available for you. So you don't have to feel alone, though it might seem dark, because there is dark. There is a lot of light here too. So a lot of life and a lot of light. So just kind of feeling into that.
Yes. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. Thank you for sharing your light and your love and your authentic voice everywhere you go. I love you so much.
Until next time.